Today on This Week in Startups, Eyal Goldwerger is here. He's the CEO of TargetSpot. We're going to talk about radio and the future of it. Another brave entrepreneur is going to wander into Jason's Shark Tank, not the actual Shark Tank on ABC with Mark Cuban. And I got some news about that, actually. And Tyler will tell us all about Squeal and all the amazing press he's getting. He had a big South by Southwest. We're all so proud. Tyler's all grown up. All that and more right now on This Week in Startups.
That's what it's all about, man. They said money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you. Yeah. Money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another This Week in Startups. I'm back. Wow, what a South by Southwest.
Yeah.
How you feeling?
Wild ride.
I've been just going nonstop, and then I went to Park City for the weekend, did a little snowboarding, got a little rest. But now I've learned as a parent, when you go on vacation, it's not actually rest. You have to now I've got to program a whole thing for my daughter and take her places and do things. It's actually work being a parent, apparently. Who knew? No, my wife is excellent at this stuff, so we took her sleigh riding and then horse, the horse-drawn sleigh and hot cocoa, and it was so awesome. So awesome. But let's talk about my other...
Rough life.
It is a rough life.
Being London Calicanis.
Absolutely. I was trying to explain that to somebody, and I was just like, I can't believe this. I never flew on a plane with my parents until I was an adult. We went on vacation. We drove. We drove to Hunter Mountain or something like that.
Yet?
No, she's not going to be tweeting or anything. No.
I think that's going to be the new thing. Kids speak at whatever month.
Yeah.
it
When
is.
did they? Yeah. When did your first
month 24?
When did they first?
Oh, she's tweeting now.
She's updating her status.
24.
We're so proud.
24 months.
Yeah, I was I went on my friend's plane. It's whatever. I don't have a plane. I've got some money. I got a little cheddar, but I don't have cheddar to have a plane.
Right.
I mean, that's the only reason I'm coming to work. You think I'm going to like coming here doing the show 2 times a week?
Right.
I mean, I'm busting my butt trying to get enough money to buy a plane. But my friend gave me a lift, and I was sitting on the plane just this is so surreal. Private aviation is awesome. And everybody in the industry is so afraid to say it. All these people I know who have jets, please don't say anything about it. Please do not talk about the jets. Everybody's got a jet. Everybody in the industry's got jet. Everybody.
The cost of those has got to be coming down. When are they going to get it to
It's basically
car
this
prices?
Is what it's basically
Self.
if you want to go to
cars.
if you want to go to Vegas from LA or San Francisco, it's a couple $1,000s each way. So if you have some money, it's not that big of a deal. But if you want to start going to New York or Hawaii, that's when it gets expensive. Then you're talking about $5,000 an hour to $6,000, $7,000 an hour to operate one of these planes. Now you're talking about 50 G's going across the country and back, whatever it is, or more. So it gets more expensive. But I think for people who are on this California, San Francisco, LA, Seattle, Aspen kind of circuit, the normal person is spending $500 going on vacation buying a ticket, and they're spending $5,000 or $10,000 or $20,000 doing it. It's obnoxious in some ways, but it's not that big of a deal if you're one of these rich people. It's, whatever. But it's still surreal to me. I grew up in Brooklyn. We never owned a new car. First new car I ever owned, when I came out to LA, I bought a Mini Cooper. I was like, I arrived. I thought I was such a schmuck. I thought I arrived because I bought a new car. I was like, wow, I called my mom, I bought a new car, new, it wasn't somebody else's first.
Right.
Anyway, you had a big South by Southwest.
We'll cover that on the next episode.
On the next episode?
Yeah.
Okay, so nobody will talk about Squeal on this episode.
Things are going great, but
I know things are going great.
I'm Mr.
You play it down. You're playing it down. I understand.
It's not that I'm playing. It's just my nature.
You're going to slow roll it. I understand. It's a technique in poker. You slow roll. It's oh, look what I turned over. Boop, the nuts. Okay. A lot of good things going on with This Week in the company. Getting very focused on delivering really great content with experts on it. That's the big learning of This Weekend. When we have somebody who's an expert, 7 years or more, the shows go great. If they're not an expert, the show goes okay. You really need to have an expert. That's the learning. And the same learning at Mahalo. So everything's going great, including advertising. .co. Everybody knows .co has been a long sponsor of the show. And so we said, hey, you know what? We got to get more people involved in .co. And you know how many people launched at the launch conference with .co domains. There's a lot of great domains available. So you came up with a great idea. You said, hey, why don't you just give away a MacBook like the one I got you? And MacBook specs.
I love this thing, by the way.
It's ridiculous. Isn't it when you reboot it? Well, it's the greatest machine ever.
It's weird because it's so light that you'll literally take it anywhere.
I know, in your man bag.
Yes.
Show it. Where is it? Show it.
I'm inseparable with this thing.
I know, you love it.
I love it. It fits in this
I
little
know,
bag.
that's your Toomey. Right.
Boom. Toomey
Boom.
bag fits right in the bag. I carry it everywhere.
Yeah.
And it was, you know what? Invaluable at South by.
Yeah, you pull it out and you show people.
Yeah, like boom.
So why wouldn't you get one?
Oh,
and if right now
great.
we're giving away a MacBook, 2.13 gigahertz, and we're going to give away the best one because this is This Week in Startups. We're not giving you like the lowest rent one. It's the best one. Super drive, all that kind of stuff, 4 gigs of memory. All you have to do to enter the contest is very simple. You email contest@thisweekin, your receipt for buying a .co. So you buy a .co, you send it here, and you just tell us what your idea is for it. You don't have to even build it. If you do build it, maybe we'll give you a couple bonus points. We had 56 people in the last week sign up and do that.
So you got
we are driving actual business for .co. It's like the advertising. We're trying to make the advertising work, right? So we know people are buying the .cos, but we need to prove it to them.
Are you telling me there's a 1 in 56 chance
that you'll win
that
this
you'll
2000
win a MacBook Air?
Yeah, and the MacBook Air costs like what, $1,500,
And
$2,000?
I'm sure 5 of those is from one guy.
You can do multiple. So if you had 5 different ideas, you could go 5 times. Right now, you got a 1 in 56 chance. Exactly.
Holy smokes.
Jason and Tyler will judge the contest. This is a contest by Jason and Tyler.
And you don't got to build anything.
You don't have to build something. But if you do build something, that's great.
You just got to buy a domain.
Buy a domain and just hit forward when you get the thing back, and just write 2 sentences about what your idea is.
What it is you're building with that
Yeah,
name.
and it could be something funny.
And then we pick winner based on how cool the idea is and that domain name.
And let me tell you something. If it's a great idea, maybe I'll just take a brick. I'll just grab a brick, whoop, right from back here, boom, I'll put 10 G's on the table and I'll just invest it in your company. Maybe. It's possible. It's happened on the show before.
It's been known to happen.
Sometimes it's 2. Boop, boop, boom, boop. Like Phil Ivey. You ever watch Phil Ivey play poker? He just goes right back here, whoop, $1 million right on the table. So anyway, thank you, .co, and thank them on Twitter. That's always good. Today on the program, I always have trouble with this name, Eyal. I always say Eyal, but it's Eyal. Goldwerger is with us. I found out about him from Fred Wilson. Always Fred's got interesting portfolio companies, so it's sort of like I just go down the list of Fred's portfolio, and Fred Wilson's going to be out in California soon, and he reached out, so I'm going to have him on the show for a special episode. And I may have Joanne Wilson, his wife, who worked with me on Silicon Report on the show, and do a little retrospective. But Eyal was also in the Silicon Alley scene back in the day, and I'm sure we met. And they've raised a ton of money, and they're doing a lot of stuff in radio. And that's why I wanted to have him on the program, because obviously this is analogous to radio, what we're doing here. So Eyal, are you there?
I am here. It's great to be with you.
And I'm pronouncing it correct, right, Eyal?
You're doing an awesome job.
I try to do it correctly, you know, and I always, because I have a name, Calacanis, it's hard to pronounce, and people like Calacanis, Eyal. So you're the CEO of TargetSpot. Tell me, and tell the audience, what is the mission of your company? What do you do?
Well, TargetSpot is the largest digital audio advertising network. What we do is we aggregate streaming digital audio properties, both traditional media companies, radio groups, that are simultaneously broadcasting their radio transmissions online. It's called simulcast. These are companies such as CBS, Intercom, Cox, Emis, and many others, as well as online music companies that are pure-play internet companies, such as AOL Radio, Yahoo Music, MySpace, Love 365, and many other emerging online music companies. We take all their inventories of content, and we insert what you and I are used to call radio commercials, which are in essence a digital online advertising unit in audio, and we aggregate and sell it to advertisers.
So how much radio is being listened to online? I mean, I know anecdotally that there are some people I know who only listen to Pandora at this point. I mean, I walk around the office at Mahalo, we got 95 people here. And then This Weekend's got 12 people, and Launch has 5 people. I see Pandora, I see Last FM. I mean, I see people using YouTube as their music player, which is really interesting. How many streams are being consumed right now versus traditional radio?
You know, it's a staggering amount. Most people don't realize it, but currently in the US alone, there are over 70 million unique listeners of internet radio. It is so ubiquitous. It's, your husband and your wife and your kids and your parents and your friends and everybody in every demographic group conceivable across the country. So when you think about the audience migration, what we're seeing right now is really nothing short of a revolution. Audiences are migrating in extraordinary speed to digital consumption of audio. It's what we've seen in previous years in TV around Netflix, in video around YouTube, in other media in the last decade with magazines and publishers, the music and radio industry have been slightly slower to catch on. But in the last 2 years, 2 years or 3 years or so, there's been a serious inflection point. And part of it has been simply the proliferation of broadband. Other has been the proliferation of more mobile devices and consumption of music in mobile endpoints. But in general, consumers are more excited to listen to music and to listen to radio digitally. And it is really almost as common as regular radio. And very shortly, I estimate, will bypass.
And so what does this mean for the traditional radio business? I know here in Los Angeles, we've seen a lot of like the talk radio stuff, which to me, I thought was like the big business. They just got rid of the talk station here that had Tom Leykis and Howard Stern and everybody. Howard Stern, I guess, left for Sirius, but they just shut it down and they just put it on top 40. What happens to all this bandwidth for regular radio? Is that just for people in cars? And I know that the new Tesla Model S has a computer, and I think it's going to have 4G in the dashboard. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say that, but I think it's going to have broadband in the dashboard. Does that mean we're all just going to be listening to internet radio in the car? And then what happens to terrestrial radio? Is that over?
It is not over, but it's going to be different. So the content will not necessarily change, but the distribution will certainly change. There is going to be a finite life where it makes sense to people to broadcast from analog antennas into a 20-mile radius, both from a cost structure standpoint and also from the efficiency of delivery of the content. Now, we have invested a lot of our own resources in our own proprietary research to understand consumer behavior in internet radio, and next month you'll see a lot of this data coming out. But just to give you a bit of some of our initial findings, we are finding that the consumption of content online is actually pretty similar to what has been accustomed in traditional radio. It's just the location and the time and the situation is different. So you'll see that about 70% of people will gravitate towards music. It's not a big surprise. And about 30% or so of listeners will gravitate towards talk shows, radio, news type of content, traffic, weather, and the like. Now, if you think about the car as an example, you're right. The car has been a big category in regular radio, but guess what? Cars are becoming internet enabled. Cars are getting either a subscription plan, or more commonly, you plug your iPhone or your Android into the jack in the car, and guess what? You're immediately internet enabled, and you can stream all your music. And whether you fancy a pure play like AOL Radio or Pandora or another one of the brands that are dedicated to delivering music online, or you prefer to listen to your DJ because you're much more of a lean-back type of personality and you have some brand affinity to the celebrity that is DJing, you're going to be able to access it in the car, in the gym, when you're running on the treadmill and you're listening through your mobile phone. At work, it's a very big category. On the desktop, as we're talking through Skype, people are also listening to music behind their applications. At home, you can stream it through your TV, on your home computer, through your Sonos, or what have you. The real issue about digital distribution is going to be really, really fragmented because people are going to be interested in consuming audio in any device that they want to, and they want to be able to access their preferred content anywhere without limitation. Our opportunity as a network is to aggregate and consolidate this fast-growing audience and this fragmented but highly informative audience, and make this engaged content available to advertisers by being able to insert audio advertising in real time to consumers wherever they are.
And so the advertising, and I'm wondering if you've studied any of this, but I find that when I'm listening to the radio and I'm in front of my computer, I'm on my laptop, I am very apt to do a search for the company of the, or whatever topic the person is talking about. It just seems to me that radio, whether I'm listening to This Week in Tech or one of our shows here at This Weekend, all of those, or you're listening to Dig Nation, or even Howard Stern, you're typing in and you're actually like doing research, like you're almost a producer while you're listening to the radio. Is there some sort of trend where people are super active and therefore the advertising works better with online radio? Because that's something I've assumed, but I don't have any data to support that thesis except my anecdotal data, that what I do.
That's an awesome question. So the answer is absolutely yes. What happens when you think about internet radio advertising, or digital audio as we like to call it, it has all the same benefits of traditional radio, which is a huge industry. In traditional radio, you have nearly $20 billion a year in the US only in terrestrial regular radio advertising, which is more than all internet advertising excluding search. And when you go online, you retain all the benefit of audio advertising, which is the subliminal psychological messaging, the great message retention, the ability to impact consumers in a very different situation in a way that has been tried and true over decades, except you're able to, layer a whole set of value-added components such as exact targeting, depending on where the users are, down to the zip code level in real time, time of day, demographic, geographic. And also you're able to capture consumers as you pointed out, are online. And online people have the ability to respond, which is why we tend to serve our audio ads with companion display banners that are synchronized for immediate response. People are also responding or exhibiting responses much after the campaign. We have our own analytics tool. We also support third-party analytics tool, and we help advertisers track the online behavior post-impression, and you can see very distinctly traffic uplift. Now, I alluded earlier that we're coming up with some new data, and one of the things that we have found, we've done research with a few research firms to look into this, is that the user behavior is affected by internet radio advertising, both online as well as offline. So both consumer activity online in terms of exhibiting interest in the product's advertising, researching, shopping, going to a website, becoming a fan on a social page of the company that is advertised, as well as going to the store the next day and calling the company. All of those behaviors on and offline are a direct result of internet radio advertising, and the recall of online advertising in audio is very high. The main reason is because people tend to be extremely committed to the content. Think about your experience when you click on your favorite internet radio provider on their desktop. You typically are immersed in the content for about an hour or 2 or maybe 3 hours. You're listening to music. You're in the zone.
Some people are they're on their Pandora all day. They're on it for 8 hours, 10 hours.
That is true. We have some extraordinary user behavior data, and the length of the session is mind-boggling. It's absolutely amazing. And when you think about display advertising, it's typically a consumer that goes to a website, spends about a minute or 2, and moves to the next website, and that's if they spend a lot of time. Think about pre-roll video advertising that is extremely valuable. Think about pre-roll video advertising on a website of high value like YouTube, where the average lesson session is a minute or 2 or 3.
Right.
When you have content where the consumer goes and spends 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, they are really engaged. The data of engagement that we have is also quite fantastic, but their commitment to the experience is deep. They're also very open to advertising because, frankly, when you listen to music, you tend to be receptive, happy, which is why TV advertising has worked so well over the years.
And so the CPMs, I'm looking at your site, and I see you have a sort of easy way for people to get into this. You can pull up my site, guys. Sort of like the 37 signals, really easy way for $1,000 to get 285,000 people. You guys will make the ad for them, and it's only going to cost, well, if you buy 800,000 people, $2.50 for a CPM. How do those CPMs compare to, say, terrestrial radio? What do they get on terrestrial radio for a similar amount of people?
The story of our industry is very interesting. So if you look at the macro, in all other media markets, whether it's in TV versus online video, traditional print media advertising versus online banners, or any other possible equivalent, the usual rule of thumb used to be that the online impression would have been worth about 10% of whatever you would have charged for the similar, let's call it eyeball or consumer in traditional media. In our industry, the amazing thing is that we started with a 1-to-1 ratio where our rates in our network are more or less equivalent to the same impressions in regular radio. And since we started, actually, the gap has been growing in our favor. Our rates are actually somewhat higher than regular radio, and the reason is very simple. It's what I talked about earlier, where we're able to retain 100% of the effectiveness of regular audio in traditional radio with all the value added. So when you think about a TV ad and an online video ad, there is different attention span, different length of sessions. You can make an argument that the user experience is not equivalent. But when you listen to internet radio, your user experience is as deep, if not deeper, than regular radio. And when we add our own unique way where we see all the streams to every consumer in real time and personalized and able to target much more efficiently, provide analytics in terms of the performance, real-time reporting, and so much more that is not available in traditional media.
Yeah, people are starting to understand that, the value of the reporting, the analytics. I mean, there's a whole younger generation of ad buyers now who just wouldn't even consider doing terrestrial radio because they can't measure it, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
So, the demographic shift is pretty massive, and there is going to be a whole generation that in 5 or 10 years will not even understand what this conversation has been about. I really don't think that transmitting from an antenna is a long-term value proposition. Just think about the cost of maintaining the real estate and the assets, where IP delivery can be so much more efficient today over the wireless network. The lifespan of terrestrial broadcasting is limited. There's really no value to doing it, except, of course, that there is still a big install base of receivers as well as transmitters that is not going away overnight. So it's a slow displacement effect. But the really interesting thing about our industry is that we really are not about just displacing an old media. Our data shows that, in fact, we help the entire industry grow. It is much more about adoption of more consumers and new behavior that is really accretive as opposed to substitutive. And when you see the people that are coming online, whether they are young people who've never listened to regular radio or old people, let's say that I'm old. I don't think I'm that old, but my parents.
You're old.
I'm old.
Yeah.
So, my parents and myself, when listening to online radio, it's not instead. It's different situations.
Yeah.
It's streaming at work.
Yeah.
It's all
people weren't bringing boom boxes to work.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, they might have been bringing Walkmans, in the 80s and 90s, but this is a whole new swath of inventory that's come online. And when we get back, I want you to tell me how you got Fred Wilson and Union Square Ventures to invest. And I see you guys have raised a decent amount of money here in the B and the C round financing. I also want to tell you to tell the audience, we finally have an Israeli who actually was a captain in the Israeli Air Force. Every Israeli who I talk to in the startup space tells me they were a jet fighter pilot, but none of them actually ever flew a jet. I mean, I don't know how many jets they have in the Israeli army, but I think there's a 2-to-1 ratio for jets to actual individuals in Israel. And I actually really want to hear about that and how that affects you as an entrepreneur. Squarespace, what a great service. I saw Anthony, the founder, when I was in South by Southwest, and he has the new version coming up. It looks great, a lot of great features, and we're using it. And this is one of the great things about, having a show like this, frankly, is we're able to pick our advertisers, and we pick the advertisers based on the products we love and use every day. The launch conference, we use the Squarespace site. Now we're launching the launch analysis on a pretty much daily basis, these long looks at new products. We're redesigning with Jose from the group a new second website with Squarespace, and we're going to do a third website with Squarespace for the hackathon. Tyler, you use Squarespace. You know how easy it is to use. And it scales beautifully. That's one of the nice things. Yes. With the launch conference, it was starting to be thousands of people coming every couple of minutes. And you know what? It was stable. And I can't say that about every other publishing platform out there. I've been on other publishing platforms.
I've never heard of anyone going down on Squarespace.
Well, I mean, everybody gets access to the entire platform. So it's not like you have this one instance of some blog software from 8 years ago running. You have the entire server farm for yourself. You can try it free for 14 days. Go to squarespace.com/twist, TWIST. And if you would like one of these This Week in Startup bags, check out this Week in Startup bags. We ordered like 200 of these. They're almost all gone. And these are valuable. There's only a couple left. And so if you go and sign up for Squarespace, just forward your receipt to contest at thisweekend.com, and we're going to give the next 10 people who forward it, we're going to give them one of these bags. And these bags were awesome. This is what I use this bag. Awesome messenger bag. Squarespace is just awesome. Check out their full-featured iPad app, which actually, I haven't used the iPad app, and I just got the new iPad 2. I'm going to take a look at that. And the iPhone app's been updated, 24-hour support, and it's really reasonable. And all the templates are so beautiful. You get like a really good-looking site. really quickly. So if you know somebody who's got a small business, go ahead and introduce them to Squarespace. They'll thank you for it. Okay, so with us on the program, Eyal Goldwerger. He's the CEO of TargetSpot, which is aggregating all of this amazing internet radio inventory into an ad network. And he's been around for a while. You were in Silicon Valley and did a company before this, correct?
Well, I've been, running internet and software companies for over a decade here in Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
In some cases, I acted as the founder CEO. In other cases, I've been the later stage CEO. So I've done, a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Why New York? What do you love about starting a company there? You've done it multiple times now.
There's something very dynamic about the atmosphere. I personally love the city. When I come back to the city flying from any destination and I take the taxi over the bridge, there's something uplifting about going back onto the island. There's something very dynamic about a city where everybody walks quick in the streets. It's a combination of roots in commerce and trade and import and export that provides a lot of marketing-oriented thinking on the one side, a lot of Wall Street savvy, and a lot of financial background folks combined to create a pretty unique mix. So you tend to see a lot of companies here that are very business model focused, very action oriented in terms of how do you go out of the bat? How do you create a revenue company that is scaling fast? How do you think about the business model, about scaling? This type of dynamism here is explosive, and it's very exciting. And specifically in the sector of ad tech, in terms of online advertising and media, you got Madison Avenue, you got all the large advertising agencies.
DoubleClick was started there, obviously.
Yeah.
And so how did you get Unit Square Ventures? When did you meet Fred Wilson, and what was pitching him like? He's pretty famous now.
Yeah, other than just have been, being around, both of us being around the city for a long time, with regards to TargetSpot, specifically, it's a bit of a ping-pong effect because at TargetSpot, initially Fred Wilson from Unit Square Ventures, as well as Jeff Klass from Bain Capital Ventures and CBS, who's another investment company, that investor group actually brought me on board a couple of years ago to take the helm and lead the company into its second phase. And consequently, after growing the company and building it up, I went back to Fred and raised more capital from him in turn. So I guess we've been pitching each other a little bit over the last 2 years.
So what's he like as a board? He's a board member, I take it?
He is a board member.
Yeah. So what's he like on the board? Is he like a metrics-driven guy? Is he a product-driven guy? What's he like?
First of all, Fred is an awesome board member. He is truly one of the most talented individual I've ever worked with, and also one of the most modest ones at that. Fred tends to be a vision guy, which is really what makes him so great. Fred really focuses what is going to be the big play, what's the long-term scenario for the company, how can we build something that is going to be a true industry-changing company that has a big value-creating play. He tends to be involved very much in teaming up on strategy development and developing strategic options for the company as we pursue growth. And he does like to be close to the product and the technology. That's very true of him.
And so what percentage do you guys have in terms of the market? As an ad network, I guess your reach is the biggest thing. You said there were 70 million people listening to radio. What percentage of those people do you have in your ad network now?
Well, based on ComScore, we have over 64% of the entire radio entertainment category. So, there are different measurements, but we certainly cover more than half of the market. Most of the major radio groups and pure play companies, not all, but most of them work with us. Obviously, we'd like everybody to work with us, but there is no such thing in life. But we're certainly operating the largest network in the market today.
How do you how do you stack up against the Rhapsodies, which I'm a huge fan of? I'm a subscriber. Pandora and now Spotify. Don't they all? Rhapsody subscription, Spotify subscription, and I think they're going to do advertising. And Pandora obviously going public and doing their own advertising. I'm assuming. Are you going to be able to keep enough inventory to be competitive with those products, which are just exceptionally good products, the market-leading products that you don't have access to their inventory?
Well, first of all, all the companies you mentioned are publishers, and we're a network. So our job is to allow any publisher that would like to join our network to do that. I certainly hope that everybody in the end will work with us, but of course there's always going to be some publisher that choose to go it alone and some that choose to have a third-party partnership, and that's natural. That's a healthy market development. In terms of our network size, we have 40 million unique users today out of those 70 million. So we are certainly larger, much larger than any single publisher today in the marketplace. And it's going to be impossible for any single publisher to ever reach a scale of a large ad network. And they're not supposed to. The business of a publisher is to build a very loyal, specific user experience and a loyal following for a specific type of content delivery and build it. Our business is to aggregate advertising inventory, of course, working with premium content and in a very specific way that is compatible to the business models of our partners. But an aggregator that plays an intermediary for monetization or revenue enablement is a different player than a publisher. And we also solve different problems to different companies. When you look at traditional media companies like radio groups, their biggest issue is their traditional advertising revenues are stagnant. And they have a cost structure that they need to offset by growth in digital revenue, and they need expertise. When you look into online companies like the companies you mentioned and many others, they have other issues. They have royalty fees to music labels. They need to find profitability. They cannot really invest as much in building own sales force just to do online advertising or in the technologies that are very specific to what we're doing.
How come Google didn't make this work? It wasn't Google, touting that they were going to do print ads and radio, and they were going to be the sort of marketplace of all that. Why do you think they failed?
So Google had a stab at this, and they weren't as successful, mostly because Google, and I think from their agenda correctly, although it's not correct for our market, tend to be, like most large companies, very dogmatic and specific about how they do stuff because they need to be scalable. So if something works to their business model, they will replicate. They'll go into their laboratory, do 20 different experiments, and whatever sticks and is synergic, they will ramp up. In the other business, trying to force a type of pay-per-click performance-driven model into a media that is inherently brand advertising oriented and is predicated on buying frequency and reach was forcing a purchase model onto advertising that we're not interested in buying the medium in the way that Google is interested in selling advertising. Right. So there's an incompatibility in how you monetize search.
So Google's a little pig-headed in that they want to have the cost per click model, and they're forcing that on radio advertisers and a market that doesn't want it.
Yeah, that's pretty much the case.
Yeah.
Could they do what we do? Sure. Everybody can attempt to build any business, but it's not in their DNA.
And so also you went to business school, and a pretty good one, I think. Is it worth it? Advising young entrepreneurs listening, they got a chance to go for their MBA. Is it worth it or not? You probably invested 100 G's in that. Would you do it again?
Yeah, to plug my business school, I went to INSEAD, so I have to mention the name. But the answer very simply is if you want to start your own business or be an entrepreneur, it's completely not necessary. Should you do it? My advice is very simple. If you know what you want to do already and you are ready to go, don't go for your MBA. Because time is money, life is short, and the MBA is valuable, but the school of life is just as valuable. However, if you don't have the next great idea or you haven't really figured out what you want to do, go to the MBA, your time will be well spent, it's really worth it. You're going to get great baggage. It's not the only way to get around doing stuff. It's completely useful, but it's not necessary.
And you're also an angel investor, I see. What have you angel invested in?
A couple of companies in the mobile space. A favorite of mine is Duda Mobile, which is actually Silicon Valley based, focused on the mobile web, building automatically websites for the long tail, for the small business owners that don't want to invest a lot of money in IT. And the way they do it, they automatically take your regular website.
What's the name of it?
Duda, D-U-D-A Mobile.
D-U-D-A Mobile, huh.
Yeah, there's a pretty good investor group around this company. It's still below the radar. We haven't really made our big splash yet, but it's already revenue generating and growing pretty fast. So this company perhaps may never really reach a VC financing, because it's on its route to taking off already.
If you had the choice, you're raising $1 million. You have angels who want to put $1 million in. You got VCs who want to put $1 million in. Let's say they're comparable in terms of track records and reputations. Which is better and why?
My advice here is pretty simple, depending what your end game is. If you are going to need to raise only $1 or $2 million in the life cycle of the company, you should raise money from angels. First of all, angels are easier to deal with. They're just, the terms are typically somewhat more comfortable. They don't have limited partners with different restrictions in terms of liquidity events, and their needs are going to be much more fluid. They also will tend to be operators, former or existing entrepreneurs, and emphasize with you in a somewhat different level. However, if your business objectively would require long-term capital of more than $3, $4, $5 million, let's say that and up, you should consider getting a great VC earlier on, because that will be a great way for you with a very supportive VC, assuming you select right. And that's a big discussion, and I'm sure there are a lot of wisdom out there about that end of things. Assuming you select right, that first VC will work with you to position the company, will give you the credibility to raise your second round, and also will give you the oxygen should you need follow-up round either internally or in participation with a new investor. So it really depends on your business model needs.
Last question. You were a captain in the Israeli Air Force. That means you actually flew the planes, yes?
Yes. I should have said that I need to kill you if I tell you, but...
It's okay. I was in Mossad. You can tell me anything.
Well, I actually flew helicopters. That was my bread and butter.
And so when are we going to go in and take out these nuclear plants in Iran? I mean, it's taking too long. You agree? We should just go in and take them out?
No comment on political issues.
Really? if you come on, you would go in there and I would go in there and take them out. If I was in the Israeli Air Force, I'd go right in. Be Operation,
we'll see.
Operation Babylon all over again. Boom. One quick shot, right? We're in and we're out. Done.
Perhaps, we'll see.
Iran that guy's a maniac. He should not have nuclear weapons. I think we need to go in there, boom, take him right out. All right. I know that's absolutely related to TargetSpot and everything they're doing. Eyal, thank you for being on the program, and continued success. And I can tell by the smile on your face, you would go right in there. This guy's like a man's man entrepreneur. He would go right in there and take them out. I'm absolutely certain. We'd be a good combination. Me and you would go in there and we'll take out those nuclear reactors. No problem. Continued success with TargetSpot. We'll see you next time. Cheers. I love asking people political questions or something, just see how they react. Everybody in a business situation is like, oh my God, I can't answer that question. So funny. The Shark Tank is back on TV. We all thought that show would get canceled because it was so terrible in the first season. And everybody knows the history of it, right?
Well, they didn't I think initially the judges weren't...
They were bad.
Ideal.
They were bad. The judges were bad in the first season. And they were also like belittling the entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. And so they had called last year. They called Mark, 2 years ago, wasn't it? They called Mark Cuban, asked him to be on. They called me. Listen, I'm not Mark Cuban, but maybe I could be on there. It'd be kind of cool. Mm-hmm. And so then Mark didn't wind up being on it. They stopped calling me back, and I sort of got a little PO'd about that, right? Like, hey, this is not courteous. If you call me, let me know the situation. Then I see it come on TV, and it's terrible. So I figured it's not going to be on. So I said, hey, let's start Jason's Shark Tank. Right. Lo and behold, the show gets back on TV, and Mark's on it, and it's awesome. It's actually much better.
Who else is on it?
It's a couple of dopey judges from last season who are kind of boring. But then you have Mark, who's actually like telling it like it is, and it actually becomes, and he's sort of supportive of them, and he's making on-the-spot investments, just like I did here with some things, and it's much better. So I emailed Mark. I was like, hey, this is great. It's really much better. And so I don't know what we're going to do now. I feel like I'm stealing Mark Burnett's intellectual property. I mean, it was sort of a parody.
Right.
But screw it. Let's play the Shark Tank theme. This is back when I don't think we had like a lot of video editing prowess here at This Weekend. We didn't have like our, we have like really killer design now, but it's still kind of funny actually. So Harry, you are on the line. Harry, are you there?
Hello. Hi.
Harry, where are you calling from? I read you 5 by 5, Harry.
Okay, I'm calling from Berlin.
Berlin?
Yeah.
Really? East or west?
East Berlin.
Really? Ah.
Yeah.
This guy, you look like the guy from Lives of Others, Stasi. You got the headphones
thanks.
on. You could be listening in. You ever see that movie? No.
I am listening in. Thanks very much.
Yeah, you're listening in. You have to see this film, The Lives of Others. Have you seen it?
I have, yeah, it's great.
Oh,
Yeah.
what a fabulous film. How long have you lived in Berlin?
About a year and a half.
Yeah. How do you find it? I heard it's got a great art scene and young people, great startup scene.
Yeah, it's great, yeah. There's a lot going on, there's a good art scene, and it kind of mixes with the startup scene a little bit as well, so there's a lot of creative people making some interesting stuff.
Yeah, I gotta go to, when I was in, and you know, usually I go to Munich. I was in Munich in January, and every time I go to Munich, they're like, you know, Munich's where it's at. I was in Munich, and people were telling me, go to Berlin. Berlin's where it's at now. So, you know the rules. We are here on Jason's Shark Tank, not Mark Burnett's Shark Tank. You have 60 seconds. The clock is set. Okay, Tyler is going to pay attention. Correct? You'll have to close that laptop. Tyler's got his pen. He's taking notes. Harry, are you ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, go.
Okay, Friend Fund enables friends to make group payments. So whether it's for a group gift or a holiday together or a community center, Friend Fund facilitates the collecting of the money for those transactions. So a user can come onto Friend Fund and create a pool for anything they like, and then invite friends from Twitter and Facebook to come and chip in. So the platform facilitates any transaction that requires a collecting of money between groups of people. So we've made this technology available to third parties. So one of the things we do is we allow merchants to use a widget that we drop into their page, and that enables their users to create gift pools from within their website. So we created one today for you, Jason, to swim with sharks. And that is actually linked to from our homepage.
I see it.
It's a company that we work with based in America, and that's an opportunity to swim with sharks in San Francisco.
Okay.
If you look at the homepage, there is a logo.
Whoa. That's the buzzer, 60 seconds. But I do like how he just he's like, yeah, the buzzer doesn't matter. I'm just going to keep going. We have to judge you on we're going to have time for follow-up. But I'm going to stay. Did you get my computer back up? Because I put the IVGA on.
Yeah,
Should be working. Is it working? They put it. Okay, they pulled it up. So here it is. Great American Day, Shark Tank for Jason, $780.
I think that link is actually in the chat to that page.
Yeah, I got it up on the screen. Okay.
Your viewers can chip in for that.
Yeah. Great. I'm sure there's some viewers who would like to see me in a Shark Tank. Well, or maybe some staff members. The whole crew's like, yes, put him in there with the sharks. Tyler, what did you think? How was his presentation?
He suffers from the conventional English sort of, lack of enthusiasm for his own idea.
Yep, absolutely.
Charming as it is.
Charming and understated and absolutely ineffective, correct?
I kind of like the idea. It's all going to come down to the execution. I think the simplicity of it is going to be key. And it looks like he's kept that in mind to a large degree. Well, there's two things. Whenever you're dealing with these money things, it's like it has to be A, simple, and B, convey a sense of trust, which is not exactly easy to do.
Right.
And I think he's got the simplicity part happening. It does look a little social. It could be a little more trustworthy. And I was at a talk recently. It was really interesting, and then very counterintuitive. But the advice this guy does, he's one of the biggest subscription plans online. He's making millions a month online subscriptions. And his advice to a friend of ours was make your field size actually much, much smaller.
Really?
Yeah, and because it conveys this banking idea,
you get
and
sort of
and he A/B tested it, and he tripled.
So if you're putting it in big and easy to read, it feels like cartoony.
Yes.
But if it's tiny, it feels like an ATM, and it's like it's designed poorly.
Yes.
It's stripped down. It feels like a safe bank.
With like terminal font and stuff like that.
Yeah. Like I'm actually
right.
That makes sense. So what did you think of his pitch?
I as a concept, I actually really like the idea. Like I said, it's going to come down to the execution. And
so you still haven't given a number for either the idea
and the business development of getting these merchants to do the work for you. I love that.
Pitch, idea. 1 to 10.
Pitch was a little limp. It was like 6.5.
Yeah.
The idea I actually really like. I would even go 8, maybe even 8.5, depending on execution.
I think that Tyler hit the pitch exactly correct. You're English, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Yes. So if you're English, you're going to be understated and,
It has an apologetic tone to the whole thing.
I'm very sorry. Who's that guy who's in Notting Hill?
Hugh Grant?
Hugh Grant.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm very sorry. It's just, I probably shouldn't, it's like, it's always so apologetic. Just one more thing that, be proud, okay? Like, if you want to get the girl, then say you want to get the girl. Just ask her on a date. Like, hey, I think you're hot. I want to take you on a date. Let's go somewhere. You don't have to be bumbling, slow. And just, this is going to kick ass. Friend Fund is going to help people raise money. It's Kickstarter for friends.
Yes.
This isn't a public project. It's more like a private project.
Right.
And we've got, some statistics here that show it works. And, you have some early success. So in the pitch, your tone can get higher. It can go lower so that you're, more interesting, but just a little more lively. Because when you get into that monotone, people start to tune out. So you want to really, vary it a little bit there and some enthusiasm.
Okay.
You didn't have a killer example, and you didn't have a killer differentiator.
Right.
So I'm trying to figure out, aside from the nice interface, and it's sort of public, how is it different? Am I really going to do this, or am I just going to email everybody and say, hey, we're going to go to Great Adventure, it's $100 each, pay me when we get there, whatever. And that's what I'm not sure about. Or at least I know the reasons why this is better, because there's social pressure in here, there's game dynamics, the bar is getting bigger, and how many days are left? There's that sort of another game mechanic, like time is going by, but you didn't sell us on like, here's why it's so much better than the way you're doing it now, and here's why the way you're doing it now is broken.
Can I respond to
Yes,
that? I just
yes.
say that the way it's done now is offline.
But offline doesn't mean bad. Offline doesn't mean bad.
But there's so many examples where people aren't maybe physically located together, or
that's good.
It's not a very convenient thing to do to collect money from friends.
And that's up to you to show that use case.
Yeah, so there's your use case. Hey, how many times have you been in a situation where family members were going to contribute to somebody's, trip to Europe for their thing, and then you have the awkwardness of going to have to ask them to pay.
Right.
And
that's great, because everyone
now
felt
you've got
that.
the social pressure here of, hey, we had 10 people agree to put $100 in to send this kid away for their, gap year or whatever, and look who didn't contribute. The social pressure, and you don't have to go remind people. The site reminds people, so it's much more comfortable for those kind of things. Right. So some sort of example would have helped there. I give the pitch. I'm not going to be as deadly as you with the 6.5. I'll give it maybe a 7. But it wasn't high energy, and it didn't have a good example. Those are two things that I really would have liked to see. Now, in terms of the idea, this is a great name. I just want to say that
name's great.
Friend Fund. That is a great name.
Great name. And you got the .com? What do you got?
He got the .com, yeah.
Great.
He's got the .com. Friend Fund.
The logo could maybe use work.
The logo, it's a little...
Just in terms of confidence in that you're not... I want to know what kind of fee you're taking out of this. We didn't even get into
what is
that.
the fee? 5%?
Well, there's two ways it's monetized. The first one is with an affiliate fee. So if we reach the total for the Swimming with Sharks, then Great American Days, which is the company that provides that service, they give us a standard affiliate commission of between about 10 and 15%.
Yep.
The other way is if it's just a collection of money for a pool, it's monetized in a similar way to Kickstarter, where we add a percentage onto the total and take that. So it's currently on 1% of the total.
I do like the concept. I do like the idea for the business. I do like the brand name. I do think you've shown some proficiency in the design of it. And the idea of hooking it together with an affiliate program and other experiences, like for travel, is kind of smart. I don't know that the affiliate fees are going to be that awesome. I like it. I like the Kickstarter idea too.
It's going to be key in terms of how many...
I give the idea an 8 as stated.
Yep.
But I think that you'll learn something along the way.
Yep.
Like there'll be some use case that you just don't even think about.
Right.
And there's going to be some use case that comes up a year or two into this business that'll make it a 9.
Maybe
like going to college. A lot of times people can't afford to go to college.
Weddings or whatever, all kinds of
weddings. It's all kinds of interesting things. A honeymoon, right? So this
parole,
actually
get somebody out.
Parole,
jail, like get somebody bail.
Bail
buddy.
Bail buddy. Bailfund.com. No, actually, I think the honeymoon would be a great one.
Yeah.
Instead of a wedding registry.
Because they all want the cash.
Well, they want the cash, but like, let's say you say, here's our dream vacation.
Yeah.
It could work like a wedding registry.
Right.
We're going to go to Tahiti. Here's the all you can, whatever. It's going to be $8,000 package to go for 2 weeks, and then everybody can contribute a little bit and feel like they're watching the number go up, and Could be neat.
Or your own special personal Japan tsunami fund with you and your friends to.
Yeah, to do something.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah. I mean,
Schools
but then you
with
start
their-
getting
yeah.
into Kickstarter, and then you start getting into nonprofits. So everybody, this idea of crowdfunding is getting so popular now that it's getting lost. But
We
great job.
like to think of it as a tribe funding, so that the people who are chipping in, they all know each other. So it's a kind of extended network of people that know each other, rather than crowdfunding, which tends to be anonymous.
Yeah. So first, that's another good point, and that would be a good one in the presentation to make of like why this is better or whatever. So these are the people who you see under mine are my friends on Twitter. Is that how you got them?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. When I log in with Twitter, you know who my friends are already, and you can then start leaning on your friends. Great job. Good luck with it, and everybody go check out friendfund.com. Great job, Harry. And stayed up late. What is it, like 7 in the morning there, 4 in the morning, 3 in the morning?
It's 10 p.m.
Oh, it's only 10 p.m.? All right. I'll be on Full Tilt Poker in about 3 hours.
Okay.
I'll
see you there.
I'll be in the Pot Limit Omaha room, the $1-$2 game, if you want to play later.
Okay.
All right. I'll talk to you later. All these guys, I'm always going up against Germans on Full Tilt Poker. Because it's a global thing. They tell you what country they're from. A lot of Germans.
A lot of Germans living in Thailand playing poker for a living.
Yeah. Go to Webinar. They're a new sponsor on the show. Da-da-da-da-da-da. I need that button. Ba-da-da-da-da. You can set up webinars on this thing with 1,000 people in 3 easy steps. And I was like, I really have to try this. And then Carolyn from Launch said, you already did. And I said, what do you mean? She said, oh, you remember you wanted to set up a GoToMeeting with all these people for the launch show, all the people who were in the launch pad. Right. I had to have like 60, 70 people on the phone and answer questions. We actually used GoToWebinar. I didn't realize it. And it's the industrial strength meeting software that's super easy to use. We had 70 people asking questions. I was answering them all in a really simple, easy to use 3-step interface. GoToWebinar.com. It is awesome. It's integrated into the audio conferencing. And it's just one low flat rate. Free 30-day trial if you use the promo code TWIST, T-W-I-S-T. GoToWebinar. I've used it. A lot of people were on it for that call, and it worked flawlessly. And I'm thinking we need to do a show where we do like a GoToWebinar on how to raise angel funding, or how to pitch your company or something like that. And we can have like a whole interactive thing going. Really cool software, and thank you so much to them for sponsoring independent media like This Week in Startups. Go ahead and tweet thank you at GoToWebinar. I don't know if they have at GoToWebinar. Let me take a look at that. Twitter/GoToWebinar. Webinar. Bingo. They got it. Okay, so everybody say thank you at GoToWebinar for supporting This Week in Startups. Go check it out. Awesome software that I've used, and really, it's effective. You think it would crash or something with all those people. You can't use Skype for something like that. It just doesn't work. It'll crash. So thank you, GoToWebinar, for sponsoring. And thank you, TargetSpot, for being on the program. Thank you for the great questions, Kieran, in the Google Doc. Thank you to the crew for another flawless episode. And Tyler, congratulations on Squeal and the big success of South by Southwest. If you want to have Squeal in your restaurant, just go to Squeal.
We'll talk next episode.
Okay, I was going to do a Squeal commercial at the end. Thanks.co. Thanks.co. What do you know? Thanks.squarespace. And if you want to get in on those contests, just email your receipt from either of those services to contest@thisweekin. We'll see you next time.
That's what it's all about, man. They said money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you. Yeah. Money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you.